Welcome everyone to the long-awaited episode 7 of Comic Book Hall Review. This is part 1, so thank you for tuning in to all my awesome subscribers. I appreciate each and every one of you. If you want to add me, I'll add you, no problem. And I thank all the people that are comic book lovers, the people that are bored at work and willing to watch anything, the people that just love random YouTube videos and want to learn about comic books. Welcome to this video. This is part 1 of episode 7, and it's been a long night. I got through editing 2 videos from Ottawa Comic Con, my video diary, day 2 and 3. I finally got them up. I've had a very busy time. For the last 5 weeks, I've had a government contract that I've been working and basically coming home and sleeping because the hours were very early and it was very tiring work. But suffice it to say, I notched up another excellent work record, and another contract should be around the corner pretty soon. So things look good on the employment front. Until then, I get back to my favorite pastime, which is YouTube. And let's get down to it. Part 1 shall deal with the trade paperback and hardcover compilations. And let's get down to it. These are some of the compilations I've picked up in the last little while. Believe me, I have quite a stack of comic books to go through, but I thought, why not start off with the compilations? A lot of them have been amazing. Only one really disappointed me, and I'll get to that when I'll let you know when we get to it. But so let's start things off. Here we go. We have the Squadron Supreme that was put out in 1985 and 1986, limited series, 12 issues from Marvel. And basically what happened here was after the world domination of the Overmind and the resulting devastation, the Squadron Supreme decides not only is it within the best interests of the world for them to take over, but to actually improve the world and make it a better place. And they do so using such means as behavior modification, eliminating all lethal weapons, creating new weapons, creating personal force fields, creating stasis chambers until diseases can be cured. The one flaw in their plan was that human beings are flawed creatures, and we had actions that were taken where people wanted to gain love through behavior modification. We had people fight over cancer and the guilt that they caused the cancer. We had Nighthawk, who was against the whole thing from the start and descended into evil and recruited the few remaining villains to create a team to stand up to the Squadron Supreme and infiltrate its ranks. A lot happened in this limited series, and let's just say it doesn't end well. So it's been out for a while. I'm not really trying to spoil it for you. You should read it. You should enjoy it. I give this one a 8 out of 10, and I think it still stands up for the test of time. It's an enjoyable read. It's quite different than the rebooted Squadron Supreme series from J. Michael Straczynski that came out later. I picked that up during the back issue sale during Free Comic Book Day, and it was quite different, but it's apples and oranges. I think this is where it started off. This is like basically Marvel's version of The Watchmen, and if you like that, then I guarantee you you're gonna like this. Next up, we have DC Comics 0 Year from the pages of Batman, and this compilation features stories, early stories of Superman, Green Lantern, The Flash, Batgirl, Green Arrow, Catwoman, Batwoman, Nightwing, Red Hood, Batwing, and Black Canary. So there's a lot going on, and the stories are all connected through a severe hurricane that is descending upon Gotham. So we have a lot going on. I'm not sure how you feel about the 0 year stories when the heroes are just starting out, just getting their legs wet into the superhero and vigilante world. I don't know. It's like in the Bible, Jesus is a baby and suddenly is a man. Do you really want to know about his failures and whatever happened to him in between those times, between his perfect states of being? Some people do, some people don't. But I give this one, I guess, about 7.5 out of 10. I'm not the biggest DC fan. I'm more of a Marvel guy, but I still give DC a chance. And this one was worth the read. It didn't really have, like, the one thing I like about DC is that they have a lot more psychological intrigue. They have a lot more crime-oriented stories. They always seem to have some new sort of drug coming out in their stories and affecting the streets in DC Comics storylines. Basically, they always have stories that detail humanity's inhumanity to man during times of crisis, how persons will put their own self-interest ahead of the greater good, and it's up to the very few who can look above that and help those who are helpless in certain situations. So in that regard, if you like DC, if you like 0 year stories, then check this out. It's not too bad. It's not the greatest, but I enjoyed the read and I'm glad I picked it up. So I'll leave it at that, and I'll leave it up to you to decide. Next up, we have the Scarlet Witch Avengers compilation, and I have to say I give this compilation a 7 out of 10, but I give the compilation a 4 out of 10 when it comes to the awful 1990s Scarlet Witch costume and hairdo. It's just atrocious, and the limited series was absolutely terrible. 4 out of 10. The highlight story probably was the solo Avengers number 5, featuring a death tale. And by far the best story of the bunch was the Avengers Origins, Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, where, you know, she's a pretty amazing character to have Magneto as a father, her early years with Quicksilver in the Brotherhood, joining the Avengers and finding the home there, not going off with the X-Men. There's a lot happening with this character, and there's a lot they can do with her, and they really did not use her well in the 1990s limited series that they have in this compilation. So if you like Scarlet Witch, check this out, but not the greatest compilation. I give this one only a 7 out of 10. I love her classic costume. I love the character, and it was hard for me to give this more of a better review, but I did the best I could with it, and I'll leave it at that. Next up, we have Sally of the Wasteland. Now, this story is kind of like it combines the elements of the Jean-Claude Van Damme film Cyborg with elements of the storyline from Stephen King's The Dark Tower. So it made it very interesting. The art was great. I have to say, a trip down a mutant and creature-plagued Mississippi in order to find the last vestiges of civilization made it an enticing read. I give this one an 8 out of 10. So check it out. I think it's worth it. This is from Victor Gischler and art from Tazio Betten. So great stuff there. Next up we have Chastity. And this one is basically about a girl who was lured into a trap by her favorite author, who is in fact a vampire and attacks her. She barely survives the attack, but she doesn't turn into a vampire as we would expect her to become. She basically becomes something in between vampire and human, and the highlight of this story was probably her fight against the vampiric Santa Claus. That was anytime we have like a Silent Night, Deadly Night kind of weird Santa thing, I just like it. So I'll give this one a 7.5 out of 10. And yeah, if you like your Buffy, if you like your Vampire Tales, then check this one out. Next up, we have Battlestar Galactica, the Cylon War. I give this one a 9.5 out of 10. And it's not because it's the greatest story, but it's because it really haunted me. Right now, in humanity, we have outlawed creating autonomous machines that are designed to kill humans. But in a real war, would that law hold up? And in a real war, would we just go ahead and allow machines to kill humans? If it came down to win or lose, of course we would. And in the end, it would be up to the machines to decide who lives and who dies, and we lose that power of control. When we control machines to preserve and praise the life of human beings as their creators, as their protectors, as their guardians, we are doing the right thing. But when we give the control of death to robots, we sign our own funeral. And that really haunted me in this story. And what haunted me more is that we as a species are pretty messed up and pretty stupid, that we fight over petty differences such as skin color, such as sexual orientation, such as religion, as if whose God someone has is better than someone else's. It's all pretty damn stupid. And the only thing that would ever unite the human race is a common enemy in war. And that is pretty sad. And this story delves deep into those issues and makes a real good point that humanity has to change and evolve if we're ever going to get past all the BS that we live on right now. So 9 out of 10 on this. Well done. I love Battlestar Galactica, and it ties it in so well to the series. Reading later Battlestar stories such as Battlestar Galactica 6 and other stories, they obviously weren't at the point in the TV show where they were at with the later stories from Battlestar Galactica, but I will say this, it's definitely worth the read. It's definitely worth checking out. They did tie it into a key storyline element in Battlestar Galactica, which basically set up the way things ended. So yeah, that was great in that regard. And you know, like, so say we all, this is an awesome read. Next up, we have the Avengers Rage of Ultron. And this has been the question plaguing Marvel with their Age of Ultron movie release, is what to do about Henry Pym. What to do about the fact that he created Ultron, that he was a founding member of the Avengers, that he was Ant-Man, that he was Giant Man, that he was Yellow Jacket, that he had a huge impact on the Avengers. And this graphic novel basically is to tie up all that loose end so that we can get past that and pretend like it never happened, even though it is a major element of canon in the Marvel Universe. And I have to say with this one, I give it a 9 out of 10. It was an excellent read. I think tying it into the fact that we've always seen Henry Pym struggle. We've always seen his self-doubt. We've always seen his depression. We've always seen his heavy conscience when it comes to Ultron. So to have this story which tied in the Avengers of the past with the Avengers of the present and left things where we can kind of get over it all, I think it was a great read in that regard. Next up, we have, now that Marvel's got Star Wars back from Dark Horse, we have Star Wars The Epic Collection Volume 1, which is a compilation of Dark Horse comics, Star Wars stories, and Dark Horse, I have to say, did a pretty damn good job with Star Wars, even though Marvel, with the current stories, has put it over the top as the best ever. And the Marvel stories now happening are canon, official canon. So it's great in that regard. I have to say, these stories just always amaze me. Star Wars was my first film when I was 4 years old. I will remember it as part of the familial heritage of who I am from both my mother and my father. And Star Wars will always have that love and special place in my heart. So these stories are great. This is a great compilation. I give it 8 out of 10. It delves into the early days of the Empire when the Emperor and Darth Vader are solidifying power. We have the stories of the few survivors of Order 66. Probably my favorite story of the bunch was, I collected this one earlier, but it was in this compilation, was Darth Vader and the Lost Command, where he takes it to the limit. And the biggest part of the story that I liked was his thoughts on how things would have gone if he had chosen to have stayed with the Jedi, and how life would have been good with him, and all that he has left is the machinery of his life. The only thing keeping him going is battle, and the battles that he has in these stories take him to the limit and beyond. So this is great stuff. If you're a Star Wars fan, you have to add this to your collection, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Next up, we have from Lucas Books and Dark Horse, we have Star Wars Empire Volume 1. And basically what we have here is the forces of darkness are facing off against the forces of darkness. And we have a coup underway from Grand Moff Tracta. I don't know what it is about these dark side guys, but they always seem to be on the last legs of life. They always need machinery to keep them going. What's with that? Why can't we have like a guy like the Emperor was before he got disfigured, you know? Like, what's with all these guys on their last legs and barely hanging on to life? And, you know, it's such a dark side cliche. But anyways, this was enjoyable. I give it 8 out of 10. I really liked it a lot. It was great to see. I also picked up another edition from Ottawa Comic Con. We have Star Wars Empire Volume 2. We have the story of Biggs Darklighter and his early involvement with the Rebellion. And we have tales about how he started off with the Empire, joined the Rebellion, helped secure the X-Wing fighters, and did a whole bunch of crazy things that you would not believe unless you have read this. So I have to say, this one I liked a little more than Volume 1 of Empire, so I give this one an 8.5 out of 10. Who knew Biggs had such an impact? And also in the story is the lost intro to Star Wars that you might have seen as a clip on YouTube. It plays out in this story, so check it out. And finally, we have one last addition to the Star Wars compilations I picked up at Ottawa Comic Con. We have Star Wars Clone Wars Volume 1. We have tales of Quinlan Vos and how some of the Jedi did not become generals and came into more of a espionage role, such as Quinlan Vos. I only knew him as an action figure before this story, so it was great to learn a lot more about that Jedi. And we also have Obi-Wan bending his teaching style to be more accommodating to Anakin during the defense of Kamino. So he's obviously trying to make a difficult situation work. I think Anakin would have stayed Jedi if Qui-Gon Jinn had stayed alive and didn't die, and that was the way it was supposed to go. But there was a bad fork in the road when it came to the Force, and you know what happened with Darth Vader. Anyways, we also have a Schism story where we have stories of the Jedi who refused to fight in the Clone Wars. We have an appearance from Ventress, who we know from the Clone Wars animated series. And this one I have to give an 8 out of 10 to. I really liked it a lot. It made me understand a little more about the early days of the Clone War. I'll try to get more volumes, but right now I'm really tight with cash. I really only picked up these compilations at Comic-Con. And, you know, finally, after a month and a half, I finally had time to get through them all. So it's pretty amazing stuff. So love the Star Wars. May the Force be with you all. Next up, we have The Last of Us. This is a game I picked up for the PS4. So, of course, I'm going to pick up the comic book compilation, American Dreams. 19 years ago, a parasitic fungal outbreak messed up the world and led to a post-apocalyptic world. And we have a story here of 13-year-old Ellie who wants to leave the confines of the military-controlled area and go into the outside world to join an outlaw gang known as the Fireflies. And she's joined and guided by her friend Riley. A lot of action ensues. The story was pretty basic for this one, but it wasn't that bad. I like it sometimes when the story is succinct. It doesn't have to be a lot of text to tell a good story. The art was adequate. I give this one 7 out of 10. So not too bad. Finally, I've finally gotten into it. After 5 seasons of watching The Walking Dead, I have started reading from the beginning The Walking Dead comic book. As you know from my reviews, I've been reading the latest issues of Walking Dead, but not where it all began. So this is it. This is where it all began. We have here The Walking Dead Volume 1, Days Gone By. A lot of differences between the TV show and the comic book. First of all, in the comic book, there's no Daryl Dixon. And we have a lot more swearing. We have a lot more sex. Even Dale gets action in the comic book. So that's pretty amazing. And basically, we have a lot of similarities between the show and the coma wake up, the bicycle girl zombie. But there is a definite twist at the end when it comes to Shane, which was very different than the TV show. So check it out. You've probably been reading Walking Dead all along and you're laughing at me now for finally getting into it, but I finally did. Right now I'm on volume 4, but this is where it all began, and I've been enjoying the read. I gave the series in the beginning a 9 out of 10. So Walking Dead is where it's at. I love the TV series. Definitely in the comic book, Tyrese is more the go-to guy. He's more the Daryl Dixon of the comic book world. With his trusty hammer, he gets the job done. He gets out of no-win situations and survives. He's amazing. So who knew that he would have such a pivotal role? Way different than the TV series. I wish they gave him more of a role in the TV series like they did in the comic book. I'll say that much. Next up, we have The Walking Dead Volume 2. And this is Miles Behind Us. And what is different in the comic than the TV series is the survivors dealt with winter in the comic book, and they didn't have to deal with as many zombies while the snow and ice slowed the zombies down. What was different in the comic book was the storyline about the Wilshire estates. That was way different before they made their way to Herschel's farm. I have to say, it was pretty awesome, and then it ends with them finding the prison. So you know what's going to happen next. Or do we? We don't know, but that concludes Volume 2. And finally, for the last review of Comic Book Hall Review Episode 7, Volume 1, Part 1, I should say. We have The Walking Dead, Volume 3, and we have Safety Behind Bars is the title of this one. And this one is very similar to the TV show. It's a way different looking prison in the comic books. It looks a lot more like a real prison than the outdated prison they had, even though it was a real prison in the TV show. And I have to say, in the comic books, the deaths are a lot more shocking. The psychotic prisoner who beheaded all the little girls and had to have, you know, Rick take him out was just some freaky stuff. And it ends with a little bit of a revolt. So that concludes Volume 3. Thank you, everyone, for supporting Comic Book Hall Review. I'm not sure what direction I'm going to take the channel next and what new shows I'm going to add. But this show, since I started adding videos in 2015, has been, well, actually no, like Comic Book Hall Review started in 2014, I should say. For the last year, Comic Book Hall Review has been my show, and I thank you so much to everyone who views it. I try to watch everyone else's comic book videos, and know it is the end of June here. Even though I have the heat, the AC I should say, turned down to 69, I am still sweating. So this will be the last Comic Book Hall Review segment until the fall, where I wear a suit. I just can't do it anymore. I'm too hot in it. I gotta wear just t-shirts and shorts, fanboy shirt, regular shorts, and just do it that way. It's just too hot. I know that I haven't worn a t-shirt since the early days of Comic Book Hall Review, but I'm getting back to it simply because it is just too hot. It's the middle of summer right now. It's summer in Ottawa. We have cold winters and hot summers. The humidity has not been that bad, but it's still been hot, and it's going to get hotter. Anyways, so I'm just letting you know, prepare for it. Comic Book Hall Review Episode 7 Part 2 will feature Star Wars comics, the latest Star Wars comics, so check that out as the next video right here on the Reverie Soul YouTube channel. Thank you, everyone, for viewing, from the subscribers, the comic book lovers, the people bored at work willing to watch anything, the random YouTube video lovers. Thank you all for viewing, and stay tuned. Come back again for the next video. See you again for Comic Book Hall Review Episode 7 Part 2 Star Wars Comics. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.